wonderful opportunity to talk with Beck Jones. He is an homegrown Indianapolis talent who's now in New York City. He's designing Lovebird. He's designing the costumes for Lovebird. And he also has a long history with what used to be Young Actors Theater of Indianapolis and is now called React. So how are you, Beck?
I'm good. I'm good. It is a wonderful morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. So tell me a little bit about what's going on in your world in New York, which is where you are right now.
What am I doing currently? So I currently right now I'm working on season 47 at SNL, which is wonderful. I'm just doing some production assistant work for them in the costume department. And then on top of that, I'm doing all my commission work for drag queens. And then now finally getting back into theater after a good year and a half away because of COVID. And so it's been it's been wonderful. Um, yeah, I'm just now I have a studio here, and so I just kind of sit here and I create, and it's so fun.
That is awesome. So how did you get the gig at SNL?
So I knew the costume designer Tom Broker, and basically he just literally texted me the the week before the season started and was like, "Would you be interested in joining the team?" And I was like, "Sure." And so here I am.
And how do you know, how did you said his name is Tom Broker?
Tom Broker, he's the costume designer, and he's
How do you
actually
know him?
he's from Indiana actually, and so I just knew him from his mom like knew my grandma, and so they like tried to connect us for the longest time, and so we met when I moved out here to New York, and yeah, we just
That
kind
is
of knew
awesome.
each other. It was wild. It's a wild coincidence.
So before we started talking, you shared with me, which I had no idea, that you're no longer a student at the Parsons School of Design at the New School in New York City. So what prompted your decision to stop
Um,
that?
a big part of it was COVID. We so COVID happened, and we were. It was at this weird moment where I was starting all this commission work. We were working on Lovebird at the time, and I could, I felt like I was definitely going up, and then COVID happened, and everything just paused. School went online. It was probably the worst experience I've ever had with school. I was like, I cannot. At the time, I was in a tiny 500 square foot apartment, and I was like, I could not do this. I was like, I can't sit at my laptop and just like do school online. And so I finished out the year. I personally think I created some of the worst artwork I've ever created. It was not my favorite time. And then, the school, through other things, was just like, they ended up going online for the next year. And I was like, well, I'm just going to drop out. And so, because I was like, I'm not paying $70,000 to sit in my studio again for a whole year and not have the equipment that we're technically paying for. And so I technically took the year off, but then during that year off, I used that time to build more connections, really built my commission work, reached out to people, um, and was like, yeah, I don't need it. And so I decided to fully drop out of school. And now I'm just working full time for myself, which is wonderful.
Well, I mean, again, I'm just finding out all this information, but you seem really happy. And I think, and I know we don't know each other all that well, and so maybe you're always happy, but I think one of the things that I really am embracing at the end of 2021 as we're recording this is going forward, I really want to um, really play to my strengths. And I'm a theater maker. I love the front side of theater making. Producing is really hard. And then I love raising money for causes I believe in. Like those are those two things. I'm like, those are what you're focusing on in 2022 is whether you do art with the Phoenix or with other organizations or whatever, and then raise money for causes you believe in. And just making decisions now with those sorts of embracing that part of myself, like everything else around me, it feels
Yeah,
like it's falling.
totally. I agree. I've fallen back in love with like collaborating with people. It's my favorite thing to do is collaborate. And that's what I miss so much about doing online school. I was like, I'm sitting in this room alone. I'm not able to collaborate with people or be in a physical space with people. and like that's what I missed. And so I've met some amazing drag queens that I've been able to collaborate with. We've created some wonderful work. I work with a photographer named Curtis Brown Photography. He's one of my favorite collaborators. We work all the time, and it's yeah, that's just my favorite thing to do, and that's what I've started to realize is why I'm just so excited, and why I'm so excited to get back into Phoenix too, because it's theater, it's what I love, and we get to collaborate and create something beautiful that we've been working on for like what 2 years now, 3 years almost. 29, yeah, we started development in 2019, so
Yeah, yeah, because this production was supposed to have happened in August of 2020. So
yeah,
yeah, we would have started the at least the conceptual meetings in late 2019. Yeah,
yeah, where we did workshops in 2019.
yeah. Well, gosh, I want to talk to you about SNL. I want to talk to you about the drag queens. I want to talk to you about Lovebird. So let's talk real quickly about SNL. Like, I feel like that's um yeah. So like so you just started this season. What kind of are you able to share like specifically things you designed or what kind of projects
I
you've
don't
worked on?
So I don't usually, I'm not in the design realm. That's so it's usually so there's Tom Broker and there's Eric Justine. They're the co-designers. Um and they design whatever. And then there's three assistant designers, Ashley, Christina, and Beth. And then there's the three PAs. We are out kind of running around, getting everything, doing returns, getting help, just getting everything in for the show because you have 3 days to put the show together. So it's kind of it's a small team, but it all works really well. And everyone, you just kind of have to know what you're doing and then figuring it out as you go. And then it just kind of magically comes together. The biggest part is just you have to have, or we have to basically have most of the costumes by like Friday for fittings. And then off we go.
Wow. So Friday for fittings, the show is live at 11:30 on a Saturday night. So what are you all just pulling all-nighters every Friday night? You've got a show into Saturday?
We work until about 11 on Friday and Saturdays, and then Thursdays we work till about 9.
Yeah.
So they're 12, 14-hour days at least. And they are crazy. I'm
I can
exhausted.
only imagine.
Sundays are my rest day.
Wow. Wow. So that means like what you're at 30 Rockefeller Center, like what
Yep.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
I'm there Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Wednesday they go in, they do the read through, and then Thursday morning we come in, we see what they picked, and then we just wait until they're ready, and then we go.
So as a PA, what is your job specifically? So you're like out making purchases, making returns, and doing the
Yep.
fittings and the actual actors?
Yeah, we're just out, shopping, doing returns. A lot of times they have me go swatching. And then
What actually define what that is for those people who don't know?
swatching is getting the little pieces of fabric to then create the final costumes. And so usually if they're doing like a fantasy piece or something more extravagant, they'll send me out to go find it. Or if they're really trying to find something super specific and none of the retail stores have it, then we have to go and make it. And they have a wonderful shop I think about like 8 people who they work very quickly to make these things come out, and it's beautiful.
No, I think the costuming, I mean, I'm old enough, I'm in my 50s, and so I'm old enough to remember the first seasons of SNL. And it seems like the costuming, really the last 3 or 4, well, probably longer than that, maybe the last 5 or 6 years, feels like it's gotten even to a higher, it almost feels like Broadway costume work. Like, I mean, they're really built well, particularly when they need to be specific, right? And
Yeah, well,
um,
so it's a combination. They rent from a lot of places too.
ah,
The Theater Development Fund, TDF. We
mhm.
rent from them a lot. Helen Uffner, which is like a vintage, you know, store. They rent a lot of theatrical costumes out. So there's a lot. They use all their resources really well. And Tom's been there for I think 25 years, and so he's obviously figured it out by this point. Yeah, they have all their connections. It's so funny, and then they just kind of pull and make it all work. But yeah, Thursdays are usually figure it out and we'll see what we can get.
So this season, what have been your favorite sketches where you know your work has shown up in?
One of my it didn't get shown. It has
Oh,
they tried to do it twice, but they had this show, it was a country show, and it was super fun. I got to go swatch it, and it got cut both times they tried to do it, but it was such a fun show. But then they have also done I know I swatch a lot for 80, and she recently did like a Mother Nature skit on Weekend Update, and so I did help with that. That was really fun.
I think I saw that sketch. I haven't been this strangely enough. So I have a 19-year-old son who's big into SNL, and um, I feel like we saw that.
Probably.
But yeah, I don't. Yeah.
But yeah, that's I don't know. Then we just kind of work on whatever we're told. We just kind of,
As most PAs are. So
this is
let's segue into the drag queen stuff because that's just it seems like the world of drag queens and drag, it probably I'm sure has a lot to do with RuPaul's Drag Race, but it just feels like it's more mainstream than it's ever been, and it's more embraced, certainly than it has ever been. So just share with me like your relationship with specific drag queens, and you know, I can only imagine how exciting it must be to be a designer getting to design for a drag queen.
it's super fun. It is, it's really fun when you get a drag queen who, kind of just let you explore. And I have one drag queen in particular, Lady Celestina. She's the one I designed for the most right now.
Yeah.
And she and we collaborate so well together. Both of our styles mix really well. And, she kind of just lets me do whatever within precautions. And we have so much fun. But like she discovered me after I did the Broadway Celebrates Oz in 2019. And so we started working together, and we actually were supposed to do a piece right at the beginning of the pandemic, but then pandemic happened and I was like, we got to pause. And so then we started picking up that fall, and then from there she and I have just, I think we looked at it the other day, like in the past year, she and I have created like almost 10 looks together or something. Like it's a lot. And we just shot her Christmas look actually at Rockefeller Center yesterday.
That's awesome.
That was really fun. We shot it on the ice rink. But so yeah, she's really fun. And then through there's just been all these other drag queens, they just slide into your DMs and they're like, hey, I want you to make something. And so you find them through there. And then I also just did a new show by RuPaul called Queen of the Universe. It's like a singing competition. It's almost like Eurovision, but for drag queens. And so it's all these drag all over the world. And going into it, we had no clue what we were getting into. So I worked with this queen called Novazar. She's so fun. She's so exciting to work with. She's another queen who just kind of, she kind of lets you do whatever. Her style is very artistic, and so it blends really well, I think, with mine. And so yeah, that's currently airing right now on Paramount Plus. And yeah, we've created some beautiful pieces with her too.
That is awesome. That is great. So are there any drag queens working out of Indianapolis that we might know that we could see here in Indianapolis?
I used to work a lot with Blair Sinclair. I did a lot with her on season 10 and All Stars 5.
Oh yeah.
And then also Anna Crucis, I've done some stuff for. And then Adriana Fanta, who she's from Indianapolis, but now she lives in Chicago. I did do a piece for her back over the summer. And so yeah, there are a few indie queens I still talk to. But I love doing it. I prefer to work with just New York queens just because I'm a very on-hands person, but I don't like doing shipping stuff and figuring it all out.
No, and I feel like we create a lot of work. We developed a lot of plays. We did online classes during the pandemic. Actually, workshops and play development processes worked really well on Zoom, actually. In terms of furthering scripts and really allowing the playwright to have time with their material and paid actors and paid dramaturgs and paid directors. But in terms of like, I think you're at heart also like a theater person, right? You're meant to be in the room with other artists, whether it's a drag queen or actors and writers at SNL or theater makers. It's an in-person medium, and we needed to get back to work at the Phoenix this fall with Audrey Cephal's Alabaster. We're doing Bakersfield Mist by my friend Steven Sachs, and Constance Macy, longtime indie theater maker, directed it. And we're getting ready to go into Lovebird, which you were doing the costume designs for. But it just feels like we're ready, and we're ready to do Lovebird, and then we're doing the Magnolia Ballet that Michael Burke brought to us, written by Terry Guest. It's a Black queer journey, takes place in North Georgia and unpacks 400 years of racism and generational trauma, coming of age. And then we're rounding out with No AIDS, No Maids, which is by my friend Didi Batiste, who's also directing. And it's basically like, stop telling movies like The Help and stop having gay men as comic relief sidekicks. We're more than that. And so anyway, I really feel like in some ways the work we're coming back to feels like it might not have happened with such depth if it was just another season that we just programmed and executed and then started a new season. Because Lovebird, we've spent a lot of time with. I got the script in the summer of 2018. Claire Wiltshire said, I have this friend who wrote this play, and I'd like you and Scott Greenwell to do a reading for it at Indy Actors Playground at Indy Reads Books. And I was like, okay, I read it, and I had to read it a few times before I'm like, oh, this is really something special. And now that I started working on it as an actor, it's just so much there. So that's my segue, I guess, is a long segue into Lovebird. So what is your reaction to Lovebird and your thoughts about designing costumes for it?
Well, so when I was originally approached for the show, I was like, okay. I was like, cool, birds. I was like, I'm into it. I was like, let's have some fun. I was like, I feel like my work's, pretty avant-garde out there. So I was like, this is gonna be interesting. And then I remember we sat down with Jolene the first time in 2019. And the first concept was trash. And I was like literal trash. And I was like, I'm into this. And I was like, we're having a trash island, we're making trash costumes. I was like, I'm so into this. And so it's this weird show where they're birds, but they're not birds. And it's like, I feel like both the characters are really quirky in their own ways. Like reading the script, you're like, okay. I was like, I get into this. And so it's a really fun show. And I think it honestly also just explores so many different emotions and like just what these characters go through on this little island. It's fun. And yeah, such a fun show. I'm so excited.
Well, and you probably hear my dogs are barking at a delivery downstairs. What I also love, I love many things about the script. But I particularly love the design team. Jolene Mentink Moffatt is coming back to direct this. You're doing the costumes. My friend Jordan Munson, who teaches a musical composition at IUPUI, he underscored our production of Hotel Nepenthe in the spring of 2019. I just love the fact that he's going to be underscoring and creating original music for this production. And then Kyle Ragsdale, who's one of our most acclaimed painters in Indianapolis, is doing the island. He's doing the Trash Island. So it feels like this project in particular is drawing designers that get to have a kind of this amazing canvas. It's not realism. It's definitely magical, and the island is strewn with man-made trash. And they're birds or they're humans, or you don't. Hopefully, at some point, the audience isn't trying to figure that out anymore. That they're drawn into the narrative. So, talk to me about your inspiration, other than just birds and trash, for your costume designs.
So when we were in development for, we were talking about it, and obviously we were focusing so much on this trash island. I started to look really into like what would be on this trash island, and like one of the biggest things I started to really think about was an oil spill, and like how that's obviously affecting all of this too, and like the pollution in the earth and the water. And so I started to look at oil spills specifically and use those colors into their costumes. So like
Oh,
each of you have Nigel and Norman, and I think it's Norman, his colors are like inked with like purples and oranges, which because he's based on the African crane, and he does have sort of like this like rusty orange and like this like dark blues like in his feathering. And so I just wanted to use those colors and like really saturate them, and then just also look like he's been like kind of run through with oil quite literally. And Nigel, who is more like I'm using like warmer tones like the yellows, rust, oranges as well, um, just to kind of like smear it onto their costumes too. Because it's like you look at their coloring, and then I just want it to also be applied a different way and not through their actual feathers, if that makes sense.
totally makes sense. It really makes sense. When Jolene, so I'm my character is Norman, and when Jolene shared with me, I think he might be inspired by these African crown cranes. I started watching videos, and it feels like it's well the my character work I'm finding it's elongating me. Like
Yes.
I'm 6'1", but I sort of feel like because and the way the cranes move, um, it's so much about their legs and their wings. When they open up their wings, there's just this the lines both vertically and horizontally are so long. Um, and so it's informing my character, how he speaks, obviously how he moves, um, that he thinks very grandly and he thinks very with these big gestures. So when I saw the actual renderings that Jolene shared with me recently, it very much all supports what's been going on in my mind as I've been working on lines and working on character development.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I mean. So literally, your elongation that you're talking about for sure. Because when you look at the sketch, it's these high-waisted pants, and then just this like big like poet shirt that's just like so much volume. There's so much in it. I'm doing these like feathers out of zip ties, and it's just like there's so much happening, and then
yeah,
just like long legs. And I was like, that's just the proportions I want. I want him to look quirky and weird. And I want it to be like, what is this human? And he has that hood that creates his like, because African grains have those crazy mohawks. And
right.
Jolene and I were like, how can we put this into the costume? And I was like, we can have this, and then he can like put the hood up and down because like it's an insane little, almost like a gag, but it's like it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be really cool to see it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm excited to. Well, I'm excited for the whole process. So we start rehearsals Tuesday, January 4, and as you and I are recording this, it's about mid-December. So yeah, I know. I feel like I just feel like I'm not yet quite fully off book yet, and I really think this one in particular I want to be off book with because I think from for day one of rehearsals, so that we can immediately start playing in the rehearsal room. And this also plays, I'm reading it too, the emotional highs and lows. I mean, when Norman is at his most vulnerable, it's when he is so it's when he's at his most vulnerable that he's most desperate to connect to Nigel. And so it's the play's very funny. It's actually it's funnier each time I work on it, but it's also sort of heartbreakingly sad in the places where you know the connection. It's really will you just accept me? Will you accept love even though I know I'm a lot? Yeah,
It's I don't know. I really like the ending of the show, so I'm really excited.
yeah, 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 yeah. So what are your plans? Because I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what our production. I mean, I know what a production schedule is, but I don't know. Are you coming into town for the tech weekend?
Yeah, so I fly into Indy on January 10th, and then I will be there all the way through opening night. And
Holy smokes!
so I think I'm there for like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
And I'll be really excited to get back into it. And just because I was like, I want to be there with the theater so much. Because I did Hedwig with Zach and Zach. for
This past summer?
yeah.
I don't think I realized that. Those costumes were brilliant.
Yeah. So I did the production in 20, I think it was 2018 or when we did the first production, and then they asked me to come back and do it. And I did that while I was still in New York and just shipped them everything. But so I wasn't as hands-on as I would have liked. But so that's why I'm really excited just to like be there.
Tim Hunter's Hedwig looked amazing. I mean, that was an amazing costume.
Down to do anything. It was so fun.
Yeah, I saw the opening night and I just was like, first of all, we opened that outdoor venue last summer, so it was the August production of the Park of the Phoenix, and I thought, oh wow, this is, if we could run this, if we didn't have regulations from the city about how late you could have loud sound, I thought, oh, this would be a brilliant midnight show. Like this would be great, midnight to 1 a.m. kind of a show.
Sure. I think they had that like when we did the first show one time. I think they did.
Oh yeah, we had some sound ordinance violations because of that. Yeah. And I understood why, because I understood why we delayed.
It's a rock show. It's a
rock show. You need the lights, right? I mean, you need lights.
You need everything.
Fog machine. You needed all of that for it to have the whole effect.
Yeah.
So yeah. So one thing I had meant to ask you was to talk to you about Young Actors Theater, which is now called React. I actually first saw your work, or was at least conscious of your work, when I went to see the Snow Queen.
Oh yeah, Snow Queen, yeah.
And I was like, who's this designer? I was like, what do you mean he's a high school kid? Because I was like, it was so, and I understand, I'm sure parents had to help with the costuming, but it was so seamless. I mean, it just felt like a professional quality. All the costumes look like they've been thought through, and they look like they were all made out of the same cloth and materials, but yet they were all obviously different and unique to each character. But it just felt, it was really a very comprehensively thought out and high quality production. And I know that it wasn't just you, it's the other designers and the director and Georgiana Smith Wade and Justin Wade. But so how long did you work with Young Actors Theater when you were here in the city? And what were some of your favorite projects?
Yeah, I worked with them. So I started with their acting classes when I was in 3rd grade.
Wow.
And in 6th grade, 5th or 6th grade is when I was like, can I help do some props for the shows? And so I remember we were doing Rapunzel, and I like helped do like the Rapunzel wig, and like I just helped do some little things. And then in 7th grade, we were doing the Little Mermaid, and I was like, I remember I went up to Justin Wade and Aaron Kohenauer at the time, who's the director, or Aaron Becker now.
Yeah.
I was like, can I costume design this whole show? And then like, each of their shows usually have anywhere from like 20 to 30 kids in them.
Yes.
And I'm
huge
like,
cast.
Yeah. I'm like, can I costume it? Looking back now, I'm like, wow, he was very confident. But and they said yes. And so I remember I like brought them all these little sketches, and I did Little Mermaid, and it was a hoot. I loved it. I don't know what I did, but yes, it was fun. And then from there, I remember I did the Witches with Catherine Wade, and those were like all the wigs out of newspaper and everything. And then from there, it just kind of started to grow. And basically the next year, Justin Wade sat me down and was like, you're not an actor. And I was like crying in the office. And I was like,
oh,
I am. I was like, I want to be an actor. And he was like, no. He was like, you're a costume designer. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm literally like sobbing. And so basically then him and I made a deal where I was like, let me act in one more show, and then I'll like do costumes like full time. Like we can try it out, And so I did one more show, and then I costumed one more show, and then I costumed one show over the summer, and that was that. And then the following year in 2014, the 2014-2015 like season, I came on and costumed all their shows. I was a freshman in high school when I started that.
Oh
and
my Lord.
Until 2017 is when I left. So it was an experience and it was so fun. But looking back, I don't know, I'm like, how did I do it? Because like they do, they were doing 5 shows basically per semester, 30 kids each. Like it was 150 costumes, and it was me. And then like I'd have like a team of like a few people who would help me, and then like we'd get some parent volunteers. But like me, I was overseeing it, and then I had Connie Alonso, who was like my mentor, and she was kind of helping me figure it all out. And yeah, it set me up, and I'm here and I'm doing okay.
Wow, that must have been a really tough love meeting. But I've known
Yes.
Justin. Actually, he and I acted in a show. This is how long ago it was. It was at Civic Theater when Civic Theater was still at the Art Museum,
Oh,
when
wow.
it was in the Toby. And it was a very long, tedious production of Flowers for Algernon, which nobody does anymore. And he must have been. I was 24 or 5. He must have been. He must have been about 18 or 19. And anyway, I've known him on and off, but I've gotten really reacquainted with him in the last 5 or 6 years. And yeah, he tells me, I mean, he doesn't tell me specific stories, but he's like, yeah, I have to sit down with a kid and be like, this isn't your calling. I'm like, oh my God. But I really do think he's coming at it from a place of, you may not see yourself, but I see you. And this is my advice to you. Take it or leave it. And when I look back at the moments in my life where I really took the note, like it may not have been what I wanted to hear in the moment, but later on it made perfect sense. Those are the people who are like, you have this ability and you have this ability, and it's like you're not very good at that, but you're really good at this. And I think it's more of like stop doing that
Mhm.
and really focus in on what you light up about.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. He and Georgiana really helped me. Even if I
Uh-huh.
didn't hear it, they really helped me. I'll love them forever. I was like, if that conversation never happened, I don't know where we'd be.
Yeah, yeah, you'd be like a lot of people. You'd probably be a struggling actor, and you would have like thought, "Gosh, I
Probably.
wonder if I got into costuming." So, what was the last show you acted in? What was the last one he let you do as an actor?
The last one I did, well, so I did the Odyssey. That was the last one I acted in with them. And then I ended up doing a Midsummer Night's Dream at Heron High School when I was a sophomore. And so Midsummer is technically the last show I've acted in, but Odyssey was my last one with YAT.
What part were you in the Odyssey?
I was just one of the soldiers, I think. Yeah,
And what about Midsummer?
Midsummer, I was the Lysander.
I love the way you said it. I hope that was your character idea. I'm really
That one was really fun. I love that one.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So can you share any other projects you got brewing in 2022 besides Lovebird?
I have no idea. I've just I have Lovebird, and then I'm just kind of floating and waiting to see. I've started, I've started to hear from like some drag queens and some show and some. I work with a band too called Remember Jones, and like so we started to talk about things, but nothing's been like finished or settled yet.
It's interesting. We're just starting the season selection process for 22-23, and it's still such a weird time because it feels like we're still learning from the pandemic and from our audiences and from our artists and from ourselves as a staff. What is working, what is not, where do we want to sort of pitch the theme of the following season, like where does it want to live? And then I see some people like, yeah, we're doing this and we're doing this. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe, I guess, I don't know. I feel like everything is still up for grabs in our 22-23 season. There's some pieces I'd love to get back to. There's actually a piece, if we end up doing it, might be something that's good for you. But I'm changing my hat at the Phoenix back to raising money and maybe doing art with the Phoenix or without. So I'm really working with the larger organization to try to figure out what comes after the summer of 2020, for the Phoenix. I know what's coming for me, at least what I want to focus on, which is raising big money for the Phoenix, and also about doing art again with or without the Phoenix. So I don't know. I wish I could say, yeah, we're doing another like kind of a lovebird thing, and or we're doing this play or that. But yeah, I'll actually have a meeting. Oh, I think I actually missed it. Well, it's the National New Play Network. We meet every Wednesday at 1 p.m. And as we record it, but it's okay. I've got to get on another Zoom call for another project we're working on for the Phoenix at 1:30. Well, this has been a delight. This feels like it just sort of came to an end kind of haphazardly, but I look forward to being in the room with you again in January. And yeah, I think this show is going to be magical.
I'm so excited to get back to it.
Yeah. Well, have a lovely holiday season, and we will see you in the middle of January.
Thank you.
All right, see you back.
Bye.
Bye.